Since Donald Trump has become the U.S. president, he has promised to stop allowing other nations to take advantage of the U.S. And the president has often accused U.S. allies of being some of the worst offenders.
For many years, we're losing billions and billions with these countries. And frankly, the countries that we do the worst with are the allies, our allies. Does that make sense to you? Our allies take advantage of us far greater than our enemies. And someday I'm going to explain that to a lot of people.
President Trump has accused European allies of not paying their fair share of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization's operating costs, and even spoken about pulling out of the 29-member military alliance. But most Americans say organizations like NATO are valuable and say they want the U.S. to maintain an active role internationally, according to a survey by the Chicago Council Survey of American Public Opinion and U.S. Foreign Policy.
Large majorities of Americans continue to support the idea that those three pillars of American foreign policy, alliances, trade, democracy, and freedom, are fundamental to our ability to achieve our objectives. And importantly, that the United States should take a leadership role in bringing a world about in which those three areas are protected.
The survey found an overwhelming 74% of Americans believe military alliances like NATO make the U.S. safer. And half of all Americans say keeping U.S. military assets in other countries protects Americans back home. Still, Trump supporters remain solidly behind his more isolationist policies.
The loudest part of the elites on the Trump side and the activists that believe the same thing, they're louder and they take up more space in the media and in the public discourse.
However, while there is broad support for alliances, other international issues continue to divide Americans.
So the three big issues in the report that demonstrate a divide are on climate change, on immigration, and on China, where you see Republicans and Democrats in totally different places on those issues.
But analysts predict big changes as millennials take their place as America's largest voting bloc.
We'll see a big difference on climate change policy in particular. So it is not going to be a winning position for Republicans to have no climate change policy and Democrats to have a climate change policy, given that millennials, both Democrats and Republicans, put climate change at or near the very top of their concerns. And as that becomes an ever greater proportion of the voting public, it is highly unlikely that they will just shed those concerns.
Experts say the world is waiting to see how important the issue of U.S. global engagement will be to Americans who go to the polls in 2020 presidential election. Anna Rice, VOA News, Washington.